I always thought every marriage had its secrets, until mine became one I could no longer live inside. For 30 years, my husband, Richard, locked the door to his home office every night at 9 p.m. sharp. He said it helped him focus, that numbers and contracts required silence. And I believed him. Because that's what good wives do, right? They trust. But trust has a sound, a warm hum in a home. And when it goes missing, you start hearing the locks instead. The first time I noticed something was truly off, it was a Thursday. He came home late, still in his work shirt, sleeves rolled up, his tie shoved into his pocket. His face looked like it had aged 10 years in one day. I was setting the table for dinner, roasted chicken, his favorite. He didn't even look at it. Just said, "I've already eaten," and walked straight to that office. The door closed behind him with a click I felt in my stomach. That night, I pressed my ear to the wood. Nothing. Not even the sound of typing. Just silence. I whispered through the door, "Rich, everything okay?" He replied without opening it. "Don't start, Mary. Please. Just go to bed." That please wasn't soft. It was exhausted. Like he'd been living another life long before that door ever locked. The next morning, I made coffee early. He came out of the office wearing the same shirt from the night before. His eyes were red. "You didn't sleep?" I asked. "Work," he said, avoiding my gaze. "Deadlines. Go back to bed." I didn't argue, but when he left for work, I tried the doorknob. Still locked. Only this time, I saw something new, a small brass keyhole beneath the handle. He'd added an extra lock. That afternoon, I called his assistant, Tina, just to check in. She sounded nervous. "Oh, he's fine," she said too quickly. "Just working a lot from home lately." "On what?" I asked. A pause. He didn't say. That was when I realized, it wasn't work keeping him up at night. It was guilt. A week later, I found a receipt crumpled in his coat pocket while doing laundry. 1 custom lock installation. 2 keys made. Only 1 key was on his ring. He never gave me the other. That night, he came home later than ever. He smelled faintly of perfume that wasn't mine, soft, floral, expensive. Something younger. "Where were you?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. He didn't even flinch. "You're imagining things again, Mary. Don't start fights over nothing." But his eyes didn't meet mine. That weekend, he canceled our anniversary dinner for work reasons. I drove to his office building anyway. I wanted to surprise him. The receptionist smiled when she saw me, but when I asked if he was in, she said, "Oh, he left early. About an hour ago." I waited outside in the car, rain sliding down the windshield like tears I hadn't earned yet. When he finally pulled into the driveway at home, he looked startled to see my car. "Were you following me?" he snapped before I could even speak. "Following you?" I whispered. "You left work early, Rich. You said you were busy." He clenched his jaw, grabbed his briefcase, and walked inside. Straight into that office. Door. Lock. Silence. By month's end, I barely recognized him. He stopped saying goodnight. He ate separately. He looked at me like a stranger who kept leaving the lights on. One night, I finally broke. I pounded on the locked door. "What are you hiding from me?" I yelled. No answer. "Do you have someone else?" The knob rattled, then went still. A long silence followed before his voice came through, calm but cold. "Mary, some doors aren't meant to be opened." Those words froze me in place. 2 months later, he had a heart attack. No warning. No goodbye. The doctors said it was quick, that he didn't feel much pain. But I did. The funeral came and went in a blur. Friends, condolences, casseroles. Everyone said what a great husband he'd been, what a hard-working man. And I nodded, smiling politely, while something inside me whispered, then why did he keep that door locked from me? A week after his burial, the house grew unbearably quiet. Every creak sounded like him. Every shadow like his outline. But the office door stood the same, shut tight, untouched, perfectly clean. The brass lock gleamed like it had been polished for me. I avoided it for days, maybe out of fear that I'd confirm what I already suspected, that I had been living beside a stranger. But guilt and grief are terrible roommates. They whisper louder each night. So one afternoon, I went to the hardware store. Bought a small set of lockpicks. I told the clerk it was for an old storage chest. He didn't need to know the truth. When I came home, I sat outside that door for hours, staring at the grain of the wood. My hand shook as I slid the pick into the keyhole. Click. The sound was soft, almost kind. The door creaked open. The air inside was cold and stale, like a room forgotten by time. Dust coated the bookshelves. The curtains were drawn shut. But on the desk sat something that made my knees weaken. A photo frame face down, like it was hiding too. And beside it, a small stack of letters tied with a faded red ribbon. My hands trembled as I lifted the frame. Inside was a picture of my husband, smiling, with a young woman standing beside him. Her arm around his waist. Not a stranger. A face I knew too well. My sister. I dropped the frame. Glass cracked across their frozen smiles. The letters spilled open across the floor. The top one began. My dearest Richard, I can't believe we've kept this secret for so long. I couldn't read the rest. The ink blurred through my tears. For a moment, the whole world tilted sideways. All the nights he locked me out, all the strange perfume, all the excuses, they weren't just lies. They were a life I wasn't part of. When I finally stood, I saw a small key glinting under the lamp. It wasn't for the door. It was for a drawer. My hand hovered over it. I didn't want to know, but I had to. If he was gone, the truth was all I had left to bury. I turned the key. The drawer slid open. Inside was a single sealed envelope, my name written on it in his handwriting. Mary. Just that. My hands shook as I picked it up. But before I could open it, a knock came at the front door. I froze. Through the window, I saw a car I didn't recognize, and a woman stepping out of it, wearing dark glasses and holding a small briefcase. She looked familiar. I glanced back at the envelope in my hand, then at the figure outside. She rang the bell again, long, deliberate. Something told me she wasn't a stranger either. Before I continue, let me ask you this. If you found your spouse's hidden letters after their death, would you open them, or leave the lies buried? Tell me in the comments. The doorbell rang again, sharp and impatient this time. I stood there in that dim office, holding the letter with my name on it and staring toward the front hall where the stranger waited. For a moment, I thought about pretending I wasn't home. But grief does something strange to fear, it dulls it. You start thinking, what worse could possibly happen now? So I opened the door. The woman standing on my porch looked to be in her early 40s, neatly dressed, her dark hair pulled back, a composed but tense look on her face. She held a leather briefcase against her side like it contained something fragile. Mrs. Henderson? She asked softly. Yes, I said, tightening my hand around the envelope still hidden at my side. My name is Dana. I was a friend of your husband's. May I come in? Her eyes said more than her words did, guilt, hesitation, something rehearsed. I should have sent her away. Instead, I stepped aside. Come in. She walked in slowly, glancing around the hallway. I'm sorry to show up like this. I tried reaching him for weeks but, she paused, voice faltering, I only just heard about his passing. I nodded stiffly. It was sudden. I know. She looked down at her briefcase. He was working on something. Something important. He said he'd leave me the rest in his notes. That word, notes, hit me like a nail. Notes. Locked office. Hidden letters. My sister's face in that photograph. What kind of work? I asked carefully. Personal, she said quickly, too quickly. But I think it's best I show you. She opened the briefcase and pulled out a manila folder. Inside were several typed pages and old photographs. One photo slid out, landing face up on the floor. It was my husband. Smiling again. But this time, standing beside a young woman, a teenager. Dana bent down to pick it up, but I was faster. Who is she? I demanded. Dana's lips trembled. That's Emily. Emily who? She swallowed hard. Your husband's daughter. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. That's impossible, I said slowly. We never had children. Dana's voice softened. He told me. That's why he hid her. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Hid her. She nodded. He was paying for her college. Keeping her name off public records. Said it would ruin lives if anyone found out. He felt guilty. He never wanted to hurt you, but he also couldn't abandon her. My throat went dry. Who's her mother? Dana hesitated. Her eyes flickered toward the office door down the hall. You know already, don't you? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. My sister. The silence that followed was unbearable. Every second pressed against my chest like a weight. I walked slowly back toward the office, letter still clutched in my hand. He left something for me, I whispered. A letter. Dana's expression shifted, cautious, knowing. Then you should read it. I sat down at his desk. My fingers shook as I tore open the envelope. Inside, his handwriting flowed across 3 pages, uneven and desperate. My dearest Mary. By the time you read this, I'll already be gone. I wish I had been brave enough to tell you myself, but I spent my life hiding behind the fear of your disappointment. I never meant for things to begin the way they did. It started years ago, after your mother's passing, when your sister came to live with us for a few months. I was weak, grieving, drinking, making excuses for my failures. One night, lines blurred that should never have crossed. I told myself it was a mistake, but life doesn't forgive those easily. When she found out she was pregnant, I offered to take care of everything, privately. But she refused. She said she'd leave, raise the child alone, and never tell a soul. I didn't stop her. I let her go. Years later, I met Emily. She came looking for me. She had your eyes, Mary. She didn't hate me, she just wanted to know who she was. I helped where I could, but guilt became my only companion. I tried to make it right, but I only built more walls. Please forgive me, even if I don't deserve it. I know I've broken something that can't be repaired. But Emily, she's innocent. Don't let my shame destroy her too. The letter ended with his signature, trembling, unfinished. I sat frozen for a long time. I didn't cry. I couldn't. Because somewhere in my heart, I'd always known that the door he locked wasn't about money or work, it was about hiding a life I was never invited into. When I finally looked up, Dana was standing near the bookshelf, her hands clasped tightly together. You knew about this, I said quietly. She nodded once. He asked me to watch over Emily after he passed. I'm her legal guardian until she finishes school. Her voice broke. He didn't want to hurt you. He wanted to protect you both. I almost laughed. Protect me? By lying for decades. By sparing you the truth, she said softly. I stared at the crumpled pages in my lap. And now you're here for what? Closure. She hesitated. Not exactly. There's something else. Something he left in the office safe, for Emily and for you. The safe. I'd never noticed one before. But when she pointed, I saw it, hidden behind the bottom drawer of the desk, covered by a false panel. Dana crouched down, pulling the small steel door into view. It had a digital keypad and an old key slot. Do you know the code? I asked. She shook her head. He said only you would. Only me. My hands trembled as I pressed the buttons that formed his birth date. Nothing. Then our wedding anniversary. Nothing again. Finally, I tried the date my sister moved out after that rough patch all those years ago. The safe clicked open. Inside was a thick manila envelope marked for Mary. When you're ready. I wanted to throw it away, to burn it and forget, but my hands betrayed me. Inside were bank statements, years of secret transfers, tuition payments, a house deed, a trust fund in Emily's name, and another letter. This one was typed, cleaner, colder. If anything happens to me, contact my lawyer, Dana Mills. She knows where to find Emily and the property I left under her name. Mary must not lose the house. I want her to be safe. I stared at the words until they blurred. He left her money. But me? A lifetime of humiliation. Did my sister know? I asked. Dana sighed. Not until recently. She reached out a few months before he died. They argued. I think she threatened to tell you. My chest tightened. Is that why he had the heart attack? I can't say, Dana whispered. But guilt can do worse than any illness. I sat back, breathing shallow. And where is Emily now? Dana's expression softened. She's coming here. She wants to meet you. My head snapped up. Here. She's already on her way. She deserves to know who you are. And you deserve to meet her. I looked around the office, at the dust, the photos, the lies trapped in wood and paper, and something inside me snapped. I don't know if I can do that. Mary, Dana said gently, she's not the enemy. I met her eyes. Then who is? A soft sound interrupted us, a car pulling into the driveway. I went to the window. A silver sedan parked slowly by the curb. A young woman stepped out mid-20s, dark blonde hair tied in a low ponytail, a cautious look in her green eyes. She looked up toward the house, and for a moment, I thought I was staring at my younger self. I turned away quickly, tears finally spilling. I can't do this, I whispered. Dana placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. You can. She's not here to hurt you. She's here to understand. The doorbell rang again, softer this time, uncertain. Every part of me wanted to hide, to close that office door and pretend none of it existed. But another part, the quieter one, the one that had lived in silence for 30 years, wanted answers. I walked slowly to the front hall. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Then I opened it. She stood there, holding a small bouquet of lilies. Her voice trembled. Hi, she said. You're Mary, right? I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. I'm Emily. She swallowed. I think I'm your husband's daughter. I didn't know whether to hug her or scream. Instead, I stepped aside. Come in. She smiled nervously, stepping over the threshold, into the house that had held both of our ghosts. As the door closed behind her, I glanced at Dana. She gave a small, knowing nod. This wasn't over. Because buried somewhere in that safe, in those files, I could still feel it, another secret. Something he hadn't told any of us. Emily's presence in my home was like opening a window after years of stale air. Everything felt too bright, too honest, and too painful. She sat at the dining table, hands folded tightly around her cup of tea, eyes darting between me and the walls filled with pictures of the man we both knew so differently. Thank you for letting me come, she said softly. I nodded, though my voice hadn't caught up to my heart yet. You look like him, I finally managed. She gave a small, bittersweet smile. That's what everyone says. Dana hovered nearby, still the composed middlewoman, trying to keep the fragile peace. I think it's good you both talk, she said gently. There's still more Richard wanted you to understand. I turned toward her sharply. How much more could there possibly be? She hesitated. You saw the safe. But there was another one. Smaller. Hidden behind the bookshelf. My pulse quickened. Another safe? Dana nodded. He mentioned it once, said it was for personal letters. Nothing legal, but important. I exhaled shakily. I can't take any more secrets. Emily spoke softly. Maybe what's in there can finally close the circle. Her words were too calm for someone born from betrayal. She wasn't angry, wasn't bitter, just tired, the same way I was. We went into the office together. The late afternoon light made everything look different, less sinister, more ordinary. But every book, every object still carried weight. Dana traced her fingers along the back of the bookshelf until she found a small latch. A low click sounded, and a panel slid open, revealing a small black safe no larger than a shoebox. She stepped back. It's yours, Mary. I stared at it for a long moment before kneeling down. My hands trembled as I turned the dial. Birthdays, anniversaries, our wedding date, nothing worked. Then, without thinking, I tried my sister's birthday. Click. The door opened. Inside were 3 envelopes, one addressed to me, one to Emily, and one with no name. I opened mine first. Mary, if you found this, then the truth is already loose, and I can't hide anymore. There's one more thing I need you to know. Emily was never supposed to exist in shame. I kept her a secret not because I didn't love you, but because I couldn't bear to lose both of you. You may hate me now, but someday you'll understand that she saved me, in more ways than one. And your sister, she deserves her own truth. She didn't just leave. She was told to. Forgive her if you can. I never did. I felt my stomach twist. Told to. I whispered. By who? Dana frowned. What does that mean? Before I could answer, Emily reached for her envelope. Maybe mine will explain. She opened it carefully, unfolding the paper. Her voice trembled as she read. My dear Emily, if you're reading this, I've already broken more promises than I can repair. You came into this world because of my weakness, but you grew into everything I couldn't be: kind, honest, strong. You asked me once why I never introduced you to Mary. I wanted to. I wrote her 100 letters, but I never sent them. She would have seen me for what I was, a coward. And I couldn't face that. If you ever meet her, tell her I kept every photo, every letter you sent. Tell her that you both deserved better than me. Emily's hands trembled. He kept them, she whispered. All the letters I sent him. He told me he didn't get them. Her voice broke, and suddenly I saw it, the same pain I'd carried for years reflected in her face. Dana reached for the last envelope. This one doesn't have a name. Should we open it? I hesitated. Maybe it's not ours to read. Emily shook her head. It's part of the truth. We deserve to know. Dana carefully slid it open and unfolded a single sheet. Her eyes scanned it, and widened. Oh my God, she breathed. What? I asked. She handed it to me silently. It was a letter, written not by Richard, but by my sister. Richard, you think by hiding her you're protecting us, but you're only creating ghosts that will haunt us all. I can't live like this anymore. I'm leaving town for good, and you'll never hear from me again. But if you truly care about Mary, you'll stop pretending this never happened. Tell her the truth, or I will. The date was from a week before his heart attack. The room went still. Emily whispered, she threatened him. I swallowed hard. She gave him an ultimatum. He died days later. Dana shook her head slowly. You don't think? I don't know what to think anymore, I said, my voice low and shaking. But my sister's silence after the funeral suddenly makes a lot more sense. That night, after Dana left, Emily stayed for dinner. It was quiet, two strangers sitting at a table, connected by someone who destroyed both of us. Halfway through the meal, she said softly, You know she's still alive, right? Your sister. I looked up sharply. How would you know that? She called me once, Emily said. After he died. She said she needed to explain things, that she never meant to hurt you. She wanted to meet but got scared. I put my fork down. She called you, not me. She said you wouldn't answer. That you'd hate her. I leaned back, my chest tightening. She was right about one of those. Emily's eyes were full of something I couldn't name, pity maybe. Would you meet her? If I arranged it? I hesitated. Every instinct screamed no. But curiosity, cruel as always, whispered yes. Where? I asked finally. She lives about 2 hours north, Emily said quietly. Near Cedar Falls. My pulse quickened. Then we go tomorrow. That night, sleep refused to come. I sat in the office again, reading Richard's letters over and over until the words blurred. When the clock struck midnight, I noticed something odd, a small metal corner sticking out from under the rug near the desk. I pulled it back. There, embedded in the floor, was a tiny locked compartment. Another hiding place. I pried it open with a screwdriver from his desk drawer. Inside was a flash drive and a folded note. The note read, If anything happens to me, this tells the whole story. Give it to Mary, she'll know what to do. My hands shook as I plugged the drive into the laptop. It contained dozens of scanned documents, bank transfers, medical forms, and one handwritten confession signed by my sister. It started with, I never meant for it to go this far. I just wanted to keep the secret quiet. He said he'd handle everything, but I was scared. When he started talking about telling Mary, I panicked. I didn't kill him, but I didn't help him either. He was having chest pains, and I left. I let him die. The words blurred through my tears. She had been there. She'd watched him die, and walked away. I sat there in silence for a long time, clutching the laptop like it might disappear if I blinked. When I finally looked up, Emily stood in the doorway, pale and trembling. "You found something," she said softly. I nodded. "Your aunt, she was with him when it happened." Her voice broke. "She let him die?" "She didn't stop it," I said, my voice shaking. "And she confessed." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us felt heavy, haunted. Then Emily whispered, "What are you going to do?" I stared down at the note again, the ink fading but still legible. "First," I said slowly, "I'm going to find her." I closed the laptop, my decision solidifying like stone. "Then I'm going to make her tell the truth, in front of both of us." Emily nodded, tears shining in her eyes. "I'll go with you." "You don't have to." "I do," she said firmly. "He was my father. I deserve answers too." I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw more than the shadow of betrayal in her face. I saw courage. As we stood together in that room, me, the wife who'd been lied to, and her, the daughter born from the lie, I realized the next chapter wouldn't just be about grief. It would be about justice. And if my sister thought she could bury the truth, she had no idea how deep I was willing to dig. The drive to Cedar Falls felt longer than it should have. Maybe because every mile stretched between who I used to be and the woman sitting behind the wheel now. Emily sat quietly in the passenger seat, hands folded in her lap, eyes fixed on the horizon. I could tell she was rehearsing something, maybe what she'd say to the woman who gave birth to her. I wasn't rehearsing. I was replaying. Every memory of my sister, every lie, every smile that now looked like a mask. She used to braid my hair when we were little. She stood beside me on my wedding day, the maid of honor smiling at the man she'd already claimed in secret. The thought made me grip the steering wheel tighter. By the time we reached the small lakeside town, the air had turned heavy and gray. Dana had given us the address, an old cottage near the water, quiet and tucked away like someone hiding from the world. I parked in the gravel drive. The cottage looked peaceful from the outside, white shutters, a wind chime swaying gently in the breeze. But peace can lie better than people do. Emily turned to me. "Are you sure you want to do this?" "I've been sure for 30 years, I said. The door opened before we could knock. She was there, my sister Helen. Time had drawn lines on her face, but I knew her instantly. Her eyes widened when she saw me, then flicked toward Emily. For a heartbeat, she didn't move. Then she whispered, "You shouldn't have come." I stepped forward, my voice steady. "We need to talk." Helen's gaze dropped to the ground. "It's too late for talking, Mary." "Funny," I said, "that's exactly what your letter said, right before you let him die." Her face went pale. "You found it." "I found everything." She stepped aside wordlessly, letting us in. The living room smelled faintly of old coffee and guilt. Faded curtains filtered weak sunlight, and a photo of her and Richard sat on a shelf beside a candle that had long melted down to wax dust. Emily stood frozen near the doorway, torn between anger and confusion. Helen spoke first. "You think I wanted any of this?" "I loved him, Mary. I never meant to hurt you." I laughed, bitterly. "You loved him enough to take him, but not enough to save him." Tears welled in her eyes. "You don't understand what it was like. Every time I looked at you, I saw what I ruined." I stepped closer. "Then why keep him? Why stay part of his life? Why hide Emily from me?" "Because he asked me to," she shouted suddenly, her voice cracking. "He said it would destroy you. He wanted to fix things quietly. But when he told me he was going to tell you everything, I couldn't breathe. I begged him to wait. And then—" Her voice trailed off. "And then—" I pressed. She looked away. He started gasping. I thought it was just panic. I told him to sit down. I went to get his pills, but I froze. I just stood there and watched him. "You watched him die." Her silence was answer enough. Emily's voice broke the air. "You let my father die." Helen turned toward her, tears streaming now. "I didn't mean to, sweetheart. I swear. I thought he'd be okay. I came back too late." Emily's jaw clenched. "Don't call me sweetheart. You don't get to do that." The girl's voice shook, but her eyes were pure steel. I watched them, daughter and aunt, reflections of each other in opposite mirrors, and something inside me snapped. He begged for honesty, I said, my voice trembling but rising. And both of you kept me in the dark. You lied to me for decades. You took away my husband, my faith, my peace, and you still stand here asking for sympathy. Helen crumpled onto the couch, sobbing. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But please, don't let this destroy Emily too. She didn't ask for any of it. Emily turned away, wrapping her arms around herself. I can't listen to this anymore. She walked outside, slamming the door behind her. The silence left behind was deafening. Helen looked up at me through red eyes. Mary, I didn't kill him. I just didn't save him. And I've been paying for it every day since. I stared down at her. You think guilt is punishment? You've lived quietly, hidden away, while I spent 30 years married to a ghost. She opened her mouth, but I raised my hand. Don't. You've said enough. I turned toward the door. You'll make this right, I said. How? You'll come with me. You'll tell Emily everything yourself, and then you'll go to the police. Her eyes widened. The police? But they'll know the truth, I said sharply. That's more than you've ever given anyone. She shook her head, voice trembling. I can't. Then I will, I said coldly. And I'll make sure the whole town knows what you did. She covered her face with her hands. Please, Mary, don't do this. I've already lost everything. No, I said quietly. You haven't lost enough. I walked outside. Emily stood by the lake, her reflection trembling on the water's surface. She told me everything, I said softly. Emily's eyes were red, her voice raw. I heard enough. She's sorry, but sorry doesn't fix dead. No, I said. But the truth does. She looked at me, searching my face. What are you going to do? Bring her with us, I said. She's going to confess. But when we turned back toward the house, the front door was open, swinging slightly in the wind. Inside, the living room was empty. The chair where Helen had been sitting was vacant. The window above the sink was wide open, curtains flapping in the breeze. She's gone, Emily whispered. I rushed to the table. Her keys were gone too. She ran, I said. Emily's voice rose. Where would she go? I didn't answer right away. My eyes caught something on the couch, a folded piece of paper. I picked it up. Her handwriting. Mary, I'm sorry. I can't face the police. I can't face you. I'm going somewhere no one will find me. Please don't look for me, I don't deserve to be found. Emily backed away, shaking her head. No, she can't just disappear again. I crumpled the letter in my hand. She can. She always does. I looked around the empty room, every corner echoing with what she'd left behind, silence, dust, and cowardice. Then my eyes caught something on the mantel, a small wooden box. I picked it up and opened it. Inside were two things, an old photo of me and Helen as children, and a sealed envelope addressed in my husband's handwriting. It read, "For the day you finally face each other." My heart stopped. I tore it open. Inside was a single page. If you're reading this, it means the truth is out. Mary, I asked Helen to protect you, not to lie. If she's still alive, forgive her, she's paid enough. But if she's gone, don't chase ghosts. The answer isn't where she went. It's where I was every night. I stared at the words. Where I was every night. Emily frowned. What does that mean? I looked up slowly, realization dawning like a cold sunrise. The office, I whispered. There's more. He left something else there. We rushed back to the car. The sky had turned dark, rain starting to fall in thin lines across the windshield. Neither of us spoke on the drive home. I kept thinking of that last line, where I was every night. By the time we reached the house, thunder rumbled in the distance. The office door still hung open from before. Emily flicked on the light. The room looked the same, papers, safe, scattered letters. But something felt different. Check the drawers again, I said. We searched every inch. Nothing. Then Emily looked at the bookshelf. What about behind it? That's where the second safe was. I nodded. Together, we pulled the heavy shelf away from the wall. Behind it, we found something I hadn't noticed before, a square section of drywall that didn't match the rest. Emily pressed against it. It clicked and swung open like a cabinet door. Inside was a small black journal. My husband's handwriting covered every page. I opened it. The first line read, "Forgive me. There was another secret." The journal trembled in my hands like it had a heartbeat. For a long time, I couldn't open it. Not because I didn't want the truth, but because I finally understood how much it could still hurt. Emily sat beside me in silence, eyes fixed on the floor. The rain outside beat against the windows, soft and relentless, like it was waiting too. Finally, I flipped to the first page. October 12th. Mary still believes I work late because I enjoy the quiet. The truth is, the quiet is the only thing that keeps me from breaking. Every night I sit in this office and write letters I'll never send. To her. To Helen. To the daughter I wasn't allowed to love. I tell myself I'm protecting them, but guilt is a living thing. It eats until there's nothing left but the sound of a locked door. I exhaled shakily. He was writing to all of us, I whispered. Emily leaned closer. Keep reading. November 3rd. Helen came again tonight. She brought old photos of Emily. She still calls me every time she's afraid the truth will slip out, afraid I'll finally tell Mary. I promised her I wouldn't, but I can't live this way forever. Mary deserves to know. She always did. If anything happens to me, I want Emily to have the truth, and I want Mary to forgive her sister. Because no matter what Helen did, she's not the villain. I am. I looked up at Emily, tears stinging my eyes. He was going to tell me, I said quietly. He was finally ready. She nodded, her voice trembling. And he didn't get the chance. We turned the page. The next few entries were short, erratic, his handwriting shaky, sentences unfinished. The last one was dated the day before his death. I told Helen I was done hiding. She panicked. Said she couldn't face Mary. I told her she didn't have to. I'd take the blame for everything, even for her silence. She started crying, said I didn't understand what it was like to love someone and hate yourself for it. She left angry. I should call her, but I can't. My chest hurts again. I'll write this down and rest. Tomorrow, I'll finally tell the truth. He never got to. I closed the journal, pressing it against my chest. The house was completely still. The only sound was the faint tick of the clock and the rain easing into silence. Emily wiped her eyes. He was trying to fix it. Yes, I said softly. But he waited too long. We sat there for a while, neither speaking. Then I stood up, crossed to the desk, and opened the top drawer. Inside were dozens of envelopes, some addressed, some blank. I pulled one out at random and opened it. It was a letter to me. Mary, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know that every lie I told was born from fear. Fear of losing you, fear of losing the family we pretended was whole. You deserved a partner, not a coward. But I hope someday when the anger fades, you'll remember the good days too. I pressed my fingers to my lips, tasting salt and ink and years of what-ifs. Emily reached out and placed her hand on mine. He was wrong about one thing, she said quietly. You were the strong one, not him. I smiled faintly. Strength doesn't always feel like winning, sweetheart. Sometimes it just means surviving. Over the next few days, the rain finally cleared. The world outside began to look normal again, even though mine had changed forever. Emily stayed in the guest room for a week. She helped me box up the papers, pack the things that no longer belonged to the living. When she laughed, and she did, sometimes, the house felt less haunted. One morning over breakfast, she asked, "What are you going to do with the journal?" I looked at the worn leather cover on the table. "I think I'll give it to his lawyer. Let it become part of the record. Secrets destroy people, Emily. Maybe the truth can save what's left." She nodded thoughtfully. "And Helen?" I hesitated. She ran because she couldn't face the mirror. "But she'll come back. They always do." I was right. 3 weeks later, I found a small envelope in the mailbox. No return address. Inside was a short note in Helen's handwriting. "Mary, you were right, I didn't lose enough. But I'm ready now. I'm in Cedar Falls still. If you'll meet me, I'll sign whatever you need. And I'll tell Emily everything. I owe her that much. At the bottom was an address for a small cafe by the lake. When I told Emily, she froze. Do you want me to come? Yes, I said. We end this together. The next morning, the lake shimmered under a pale sky. The cafe smelled of cinnamon and rain-damp wood. Helen was already there, sitting by the window, hands wrapped around a cup of untouched coffee. She looked up when we walked in. Her face was thinner, older somehow, like guilt had taken up permanent residence. Emily sat first. You ran, she said softly. Helen nodded. I was afraid. Of what? I asked, sliding into the seat beside Emily. Of seeing you both, she whispered. Of hearing you say what I already knew, that I ruined everything. You didn't ruin it alone, I said. But you kept it ruined by lying. Tears welled in her eyes. I know. That's why I came back. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her purse, the same confession I'd already seen in Richard's files. I'm ready to make this official, she said quietly. The police, the lawyer, whoever needs it. He deserved better. So did you. Emily's voice cracked. So did you. Helen looked at her, startled. You made horrible choices, Emily said, but you loved him too. And maybe that's what destroyed you both. But I can't hate you forever. I don't want to. Helen covered her face and sobbed quietly. You're just like him, too kind. Emily shook her head. No. I'm like my mother. She looked at me, her eyes shining. The one who stayed even after everything broke. I reached across the table, taking both their hands in mine. None of us can fix what's gone, I said softly. But we can stop it from festering. For a long time, the three of us sat there, the widow, the daughter, the sister, bound by blood, betrayal, and something almost like forgiveness. That evening, back home, I sat in the office one last time. The sunset spilled golden light across the desk, touching every letter, every object once locked behind a door. I didn't lock it when I left. I left it open, the way it should have been all along. I stood in the doorway, looking back one last time. On the desk, I placed Richard's journal, and a fresh notebook beside it. On the first page, I wrote, Truth never destroys a family, silence does. Then I closed it gently and turned off the light. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, peace. Not the kind that forgets, but the kind that forgives. When I woke the next morning, sunlight filled the room. Emily had left early, but there was a note on the table. Thank you, Mary, for giving me my father back, even if it's only in words. Beside it was a small framed photo, the three of us at the cafe. Me, Emily, and Helen. Not a perfect family, but an honest one. I walked to the office doorway one last time. The morning light hit the desk just right, the journal glowing faintly in its reflection. I smiled softly and whispered, Secrets only win when we stop telling our stories. Then I turned toward the camera in my mind, the one that's always there, recording not just what happened but what it means, and I said, If someone you love keeps a door locked, ask yourself, are you scared of what's inside, or what you already know? Because truth doesn't wait forever. And sometimes the only way to heal is to open it.